Hey there, magical experimenters. Hey, magical experimenters. This is Taylor Ellwood. And as you can tell, there's been some changes to my life. New environment, new space. Getting used to that space. I'm recording this video at 5:30 in the morning. So probably most of you aren't even up, or you are and you're on the East Coast or whatever, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm happy. New space. Yay. And we're going to talk today about the topic of of whether or not you should share your magical work. But I want to share some exciting updates. Before I do that, real quick, if you're new to this video stream, go ahead and click subscribe, click the notification bell. And if you're an old schooler, you've been around for a bit, go ahead and like this video and comment. So, why am I up first thing in the morning? Well, can't sleep. Today's an interesting day for me. I'm not going to really get into it, but it is what it is. But I thought, hey, well, since I can't sleep anyway, why don't I do something productive with my time instead of just, being all insomniac? And so here I am. I tried to make this video yesterday, and because of the light, I was like all lit up, like you could like barely see me, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that to people. So one of the things I have to figure out here is I'm probably gonna have to get like some kind of tapestries or stuff and hang them up when I want to do videos during the day, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to record. And Taylor loves to record. So exciting updates, right? Well, A, I'm in a new space. B, I'm going to start recording classes again. Yep, I have classes that I want to start creating and sharing with you guys. And I'm also going to be doing podcasts again. I'm going to be having some guests back. So I'm really excited about all those things because it's been a long time coming. Let's put it that way. I put stuff off for a long time, and like I'm finally getting back on my feet, and that's a really good feeling. And I mean, I got to just say I wouldn't be able to do that right now if it wasn't for the people in my life who supported me. The person that I lived with up until now, she gave me a space to live in, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. She really took care of me. Um, and there's a person in my life that's recently arrived who's pretty important to me, and I'm really happy that person's in my life, and definitely is has definitely been helping me out in some ways. And so that's all I'm going to really say about that person. But I'm really happy that the person's in my life. Okay, actually, today's topic is a suggestion from that person, and question was, basically they said, you know, you talk about magic all the time, and you talk about like your work and ongoing work, but in general, people don't typically talk about their magical work and what they're doing and why they're doing it. As they're doing it, they keep it to themselves, and sometimes they never talk about it. And of course, there is, there is that one principle of, basically stay silent, right? Like don't talk about what you're doing. Well, as you know by now, I don't go for that kind of stricture. Like I will talk about the stuff that I want to talk about, and I do share like my ongoing magical work. Like I'll post my journal entries, for example, where I'm sharing like what my ongoing internal work is. Or I'll write a blog post about something that I'm currently working on and share where I'm at with it. And most people, from what I can tell, don't typically do that. So, they hold on to that stricture of stay silent. Don't don't talk about the work that you're doing. So why, you might wonder, does Taylor do that? Why does Taylor choose to talk about magical work? Well, here's the thing. I've never gone along with that principle of staying silent. I get why people do it. I mean, there's a few good reasons. I mean, the pros of doing it is that, hey, like, you're not broadcasting your business out there to the world. And if people don't know what you're doing, then they're not going to get in your way and interfere, right? Um, you know, They're not going to interfere on a mundane level. They're not going to interfere on a magical level because the argument is that like if someone knows what you're doing, they could try and monkey up your magical work. Um, and I don't know. I mean, there are some people out there that if they don't like you, they could. I mean, I certainly have some people who don't like me. So I'm sure that if there are that there've probably been a few times where people have been like, well, that's what Taylor's working on. I'm going to try and mess with them. I don't know how successful they've been because I mean I've kept doing my thing and I mean yeah sure my life has taken some left turns on occasion, but that's usually been self-inflicted as opposed to magically inflicted by somebody else. So I don't hold much credence to that. Oh, so I'm getting asked by a person, can we do magic with tarot? Well, that's not the topic of this video, but I will tell you that yes, you can. Um, and in fact, if you go to my Magical Experiments website, you can look up some blog articles about that. And for that matter, you can even hire me to teach you or do that work with you because I actually do some tarot spell weaving. So something to keep in mind there. That's something you're looking for. Anyway, love the cup. I know I do. Yeah, see, like my whole life, I'm just kind of like reinventing everything. It's nice. It's nice to be in a new space. It's nice to have nice new things and all this other stuff. It's making me very happy. And it's nice to meet you too. I always like when people say hello. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, what I end up doing is I do share what I'm working on. And the reason I share what I work on is because I think that while I'm working on it is that I think it's important to kind of show like where things are in a person's workings. One of the criticisms that I have, oh, thank you. I'm glad you love my channel. That's cool. Um, one of the criticisms I have of basically modern occultism is that people don't share enough of what they're doing, and they kind of they share the finished product. You only see like what the end result is, and a lot of times they won't even share the details of what they did or why they did it or things along those lines. And why I find this problematic is that you get this incomplete picture of what someone's doing and why they're doing it and what their thought process is. And it makes it harder to take what they're doing and effectively utilize it in your own magical work. Now, some people will say, well, do I really want to do that anyway? And my answer to that would be, why not? Why not be willing to change or why not be willing to share what you're doing and show people what's going on? For example, in this last week, as I've been moving into this space and occupying it, I've been taking pictures of like how the place has been shaping up. And I've done that, and then I've been talking a bit about like my process for designing this space because I'm turning this home of mine into a giant magical dedicated space for magical work. Like every single room has a specific purpose and it's amplifying the mundane work that I do and the way that I show up in my life. I'm going to be doing some magical workings later today, in fact, creating some magical entities to kind of take things even further. And why I share that is because most people don't think of designing their space in a magical way. They don't think like, okay, this is like what I could do with this magical space. Well, I want to inspire people to do something. So I'm going to share those things and I'm not going to stay silent because if I stay silent, it doesn't help anyone. And I think that one of the reasons why modern occultism as a discipline hasn't advanced as much as it could is because people don't share what they're doing. There's not that ongoing work being shared, and there's not that ongoing contribution and discussion. You know, there's not that ongoing exploration of why people are doing what they're doing, and as a result, magic ends up stagnating. And I see this a lot. I mean, we're basically, the way that I see it is you look, for example, at how many books are out there on a specific topic, and how a lot of times it's rooted in stuff that was, developed a long time ago. I'm gonna use this. This is a good example because I'm about to start working on a book on on working with elemental spirits. Do you know that we're basically still, for the most part, relying upon a model that was written about 3,000 years ago, right? Like the ancient Greeks were writing about the five elements: earth, air, fire, water, and quintessence. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's some interesting takes on elemental magic and classical elemental magic, but there's so much more that could be done with elemental magic. And I've done some stuff. And I'm going to be writing about all of this. But for the most part, I find that people just kind of want to stick with what's traditional or old or conventional or whatever else, and they don't share their work, and it's a shame, and then you have some people who are sharing their work, kind of, sort of, they're writing books and everything else, but that's the perspective, like that's the only perspective we're really getting, are the authors like me. Like I'm one of those people, but as people have told me, I'm a unique voice out there in the field because I'm busy doing my own thing. And I remember, and this is really the biggest reason that I share my ongoing work. I can tell you, like, I remember having people try and discourage me because I would be talking about like pop culture magic way back in the 1990s. And I'd have people tell me, "You're reinventing the wheel. It's not real magic," and all this other silly stuff. And I'll tell you, I have to honestly thank those people to this day because they motivated me to want to continue sharing my work. They motivated me because they were trying to discourage me and tell me what I couldn't do and how it wasn't real magic and all this other silliness because, whatever. And I remember challenging one of them. I'm like, "Well, why aren't you sharing what you're doing?" And he came up with this BS excuse that, like, he was too busy to share it and that he didn't want to necessarily tell other people what was going on and all this other stuff. I mean, and this guy was a vain fellow. Like, he was all like, he had this overly high opinion of himself, but he was never sharing his work. And I really didn't have any respect for him. Still don't to this day. So Stone Mirror, if you're watching this, I still don't have any respect for you, dude. Just remember that. And look at the results, Stone Mirror. I've written over 40 books now. And what have you done? Yeah, you remember that because I remember what you said to me. And guess what? I reinvented the wheel a lot of times. Yeah, I sometimes have a chip on my shoulder. What can I say? There's certain people I just don't care for, and he's one of them. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll answer this question. All modern occultists don't show their face. Actually, there's plenty of people showing their faces out there. Go on to TikTok or whatever else. But I don't know what to tell you on that one. I think, again, some people, they get a little weird about those things. I don't care. Like, I've always been public, and I've always been out in public about what I do. I mean, I use my real name, all that other stuff, and there are risks with that. I mean, one of the reasons why you have the whole keep silent thing is that people, like unfortunately, at least in the US, you're dealing with the dominant Christian religion. And, some Christians don't like us and our beliefs. So, I mean, that's part of it. I'm just going to call it for what it is. But again, I don't really care. I mean, they don't have to like what I believe in. I'm still going to go out there and share it. I'm going to share it precisely for those reasons. So again, if when you have people that try to discourage that, what they're really discouraging is they're discouraging the innovation of magical work. They're discouraging experimentation. They're discouraging the opportunity to learn and go deeper. And I think that, like, that's really important. Like, we have to be willing to go deeper in our magical work. Which talk is the greatest treasure to the occult community in your ascended opinion? Okay, cool. And hey, whatever rocks your boat, man. I'm not gonna I'm not going to tell you one way or another. I mean, I think it's interesting because I think what I see really is magic as a lifestyle, as opposed to like really magic for the right reasons. But hey, all right, and you have so you took a break from magic. How can you get back into it? You know, I should do more of these early morning videos. When you guys come out and start asking questions, this is fun. I'm gonna have to remember this. You know, how do you get back into it? Well, start practicing again. It's as simple as that. You know, like pick up where you were at, and then go out there and start practicing again. That's what I would say. Or pick up a book and start reading and do the exercises. It's as simple as that. I know it's probably not the answer you want, but really, I mean, like it's like training wheels and all that stuff. Victoria is asking, you know, is it all about balance, balancing magic and ordinary, balancing magic in the mundane? Well, you know, my answer to that really is like I live what would be considered a magic. I live what I would say is the magical life. Like my focus is 24/7 magic, really in my life, and so I live the lifestyle, you know, as much as I can is how I would put it. And I mean, but at the same time, I do think you have to be rooted in the mundane to some degree. You know, I still have to pay my bills. I still have to take care of the other things, but I find that really, for me, like integrating magic into my life on a regular basis is actually integral to that. And I think it's interesting when we try to separate out magic and the ordinary life, the mundane life. What are we really doing? We're creating artificial divisions. And this kind of goes back to that whole keep silent argument. When we create artificial divisions between what we're doing and how we're doing it and whether or not we share it or whatever else, what we're really doing is we're creating a disservice to ourselves and to the work in our lives, because we're boxing ourselves in a way that like keeps us from really fully integrating the work that we're doing. And for me, it's all about integration. You know, integration is the realization of your life with your magical work. And you could say, well, but then that doesn't necessarily seem very balanced, Taylor. And my response to that would be, it does balance out, but it's something that requires dedication and work. Like when I'm writing about, when I'm sharing my personal entries and like what I'm dealing with and what I'm struggling with and things that I'm working through, you know, you're not going to see that from most occultists. Most occultists aren't going to give you an inside peek of your life. And it's fascinating to me because, you know, what they're doing is they're missing out on that opportunity to share that intimacy. And yet what I would say is the reason why I share such an intimate look at my own life and like what I'm dealing with and the struggles and challenges that I have and the successes as well, and why I share magic so openly, is because the only way for people to really understand what comes with the practice of magic is to get that kind of a glimpse of not just the successes and the results, but also the challenges and the struggles and like what your life sometimes can be like. And what I mean by that, like, is like, what is the price that comes along with doing this work? And people don't want to hear about that. Okay. I get it. You know, like they want results. Like I see this, like, I want results. I want results. I want results. I get it. But magic goes so much beyond results. I mean, I do a fair amount. I've done a fair amount of results-based magic lately. You know, I did results-based magic to get this place. Like I'm living right now in a super saturated rent market. Like literally, people are on wait lists, and I got this place within less than a week. And as a couple of people down here said, well, like you can't do that normally that fast in the market. And I just smiled and said, yeah, you can't normally, but magic. So, I mean, I can get results when I need to. And as I said, as I would put it, when I know what I want, I get what I want. Of course, the question is, how do you figure out what you want? And one of the reasons why I share my journey and share what I'm dealing with so intimately is because I think that in order for you to figure out what you want, you have to be willing to necessarily examine your process for figuring that out. And it's not going to always be obvious. And sometimes you have to be willing to share like what you're struggling with. And unfortunately, what I see with most occultists is they share this perfected image of themselves, and they're not willing to talk about their mistakes. They're not willing to talk about where they messed up. Well, as you guys know by now, I do talk about my mistakes. I do talk about where I mess up. And the reason I do that is because if you're not willing to share that kind of intimacy, I think the problem that I have with modern occultism, I have lots of problems with modern occultism, as you guys know by now. Like I got giant chips on my shoulders practically, but seriously, the problem that I have with modern occultism is that when you only show a perfected image of like what you haven't let people in on the process. And this is what challenges a lot of people who are out there trying to practice magic, because then they're like, well, so and so did it that way, and they seem to get what they wanted. Why can't I? And what so and so didn't do is they didn't let you in on the process. They didn't let you in on the moments where they felt frustration. They didn't let you in on the challenges that they were having. And they did a disservice by doing that. So let's see, another question here. It's a couple questions. Can egregores be created by a single person? I'm going to go into that another time. I'm not going to do that today because like that's totally off topic, Sandeep. Okay, so the other question is, I've been thinking about doing a general love spell to attract a partner. What's the best way to go about that and best way to take action? Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of words of advice on that one, my friend. One, be really careful, like what you're doing. Like if you're going to do that, like don't do it for a specific person. I never recommend that because then like you're like potentially messing with that person's free will, and that's not a good thing. I mean, I think to some degree the person has to be receptive, but still, you don't want to mess things up. Speaking as someone who's done some love magic and also had people do love magic toward him, I can tell you that it's an interesting thing. Like don't ever do magic if you're not ready. And again, this totally relates to this topic. That's why I'm answering this question. But don't ever do magic where you're not willing to deal with the consequences that come with the results. I've been talking about this a lot lately because I think sometimes people get so focused on the results, and what they don't realize is like you have your result that you're going for, but what you don't realize is that there are consequences that ripple out from that result. So like, okay, love magic is a good example. Like you do love magic to bring someone into your life. Are you ready for everything that comes into your life with that person? Are you ready, for example, for that person's issues? For the challenges and the problems that they're dealing with? Are you ready for how that person's going to disrupt your life? Like, let's say you have this happy little life, like you're single and you're content and everything is going great, and you decide to do some love magic. Well, guess what? Your life's going to change, right? You bring someone into your life. Well, now you no longer have your happy little routines. You actually have some stuff that you're dealing with this person. You're dealing with the effect that this person has on your life. And they're both good and bad disruptions. Like good disruptions would be like, oh, hey, like I'm in love with this person and I'm happy and everything's sweet and silly and all that other stuff. But unwelcome disruptions might be, well, this person's taking up a lot of time. And I have these projects and things that I want to work on. And now I'm like, oh, I've got to make time for this person. Well, I mean, yeah, you brought that person into your life. Did you not want that? Well, too late. Now you have that person. I guess you can break up, but then you're dealing with the misery of having a breakup. So I mean, my point being, like, okay, if you're going to do love magic, first of all, know what you really want. Like, do you really want this, and why do you want it? And sometimes I find like when people do magic, they do magic because they they want something on a subconscious level. They don't even know fully what they want. And so they'll do something and they'll do it to get what they want, but they won't realize what it is they're getting. Okay, so guess what? You got it. You got that thing that you wanted. Now what? And you got it in a way where it was responding to your subconscious desires. And this is why it's really important to keep a journal of what you're doing. Let's say you choose not to share what you're doing magically, okay? Like let's say you do go with the keep silent. You still need to be sharing with yourself what you're doing and what's going on, at the very least. I always say, like, if you're going to troubleshoot your magic, keep a journal, because your journal will tell you a lot. And one of the ways that I troubleshoot my magic is I keep that journal, like, again, and I share it publicly. And I mean, I don't care. Like, there are some people who are like, well, again, like, other people could mess with what you're doing magically. And, honestly, if you're not that confident about your own magical work, then don't do it. Because if they want to mess with you magically, they're probably already trying to do it anyway. And you could say, well, it creates an additional vector or whatever else. And my response would be, well, yeah, maybe. But really, if you know what you're doing, and you'll button it up. You'll plan for all the things that you're aware of. And yes, there may be some variables that come along that you don't expect, but you'll still plan for it. This is why with magical work, we necessarily need to see what the process looks like. And this is why I don't stay silent, because I don't see any value in that particular credo of staying silent. I get why other people do, but I think it just highlights the problem where we keep what real magic actually is in the background, and instead you have like all these glamour as a lifestyle, and it's just not, glamour as a lifestyle, I mean, can work, but at a certain point, magic as a lifestyle has to become something deeper. You can dress up a certain way and act a certain way and all this other stuff, but it's not real in the same way. Okay, so we got a couple more questions here. John asks, how would you manage your energy supply throughout the day, keeping it secret, daily rituals, etc., and that after a magical operation, you find yourself spiritually exhausted? Well, okay, few answers to that. The short and sweet answer is you build up your endurance over time. Like, I do magic every day. When I first started out, sure, a little bit exhausting, but hey, I keep at it. But no, really, here's the key. One, at least for me, with my magical work, I do a lot of, I look at the alternative fuel sources. I don't use myself as a fuel source for my magical work for the most part. I mean, my emotions end up becoming great fuel sources, but that's because, again, they're an expression of things. But I look at alternative fuel sources for my magical work. If you pick up my book, Process of Magic, John, that'll walk you through a lot of that. Or check out some of my classes, like Low Effort Magic is a good course for you. You might find that helpful. And that's, if you go into the links in the description, you'll find stuff for all that. But basically, like, I basically find that if you don't want to get exhausted with magical work, I mean, some of it is building up that spiritual endurance. It's like exercise. Like, you kind of have to go out there and build up those reserves. But I think the other thing of it is that you have to be willing to look at those alternative fuel sources. Like, I never draw on myself too much, but I also do a lot of internal work to refine my internal energy, and that helps out immensely. So that's what I would, that's the short and sweet answer to that. Wow, maybe I should call this video Q&A video instead of what the topic is, but I don't mind. I love it when people ask me questions. It's kind of neat, and this has been one of the more fun videos I've made in a while. Not the least because I'm in my own space finally. Woohoo! Cheers to that. I'm so happy to be in my own space again. I have missed having my own space, and now I have it, and it feels really good. And it feels like it's literally a year later since like my life blew up. I mean, this was a day where my life blew up, among many days in August, and yeah, a lot of that was on me. I'm not going to deny it. A lot of it was on other things going on, but you know, the lesson there is that, I mean, you can mess your life up in some ways and still come back. You know, it may take a little while, but you can. I mean, I've done a fair amount of magical work to get to where I'm at right now, and again, I've shared it because if I don't share these kinds of things, like you never learn, and I think that that's a shame then at that point. All right, so that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. You guys kind of helped me ramble for a while about stuff, and hopefully it helps you think a bit about your own magical work and whether to share it or not. Again, I'm always going to be the person who's going to advocate for sharing. And the reason why I'm going to advocate for sharing is because when you share, aside from the fact that you care, yeah, slight joke there. What you're doing ultimately is you're contributing to the innovation of magic. You know, when people can see the mistakes that you've made as well as your successes and triumphs, when they can see the process as it's being worked on and developed, what you're really doing is you're sharing how magic really works. You're not just presenting a polished product and here it is. Instead, you're really discovering and sharing what it is and allowing it to transform your life, and at the same time transform other people's lives. And that's why I share my ongoing work, and I think it makes a huge difference for people. I mean, certainly you guys have asked some great questions, and it's been wonderful. All right, take care, folks. And again, for those of you watching the video after the fact, like it, comment on it, ask questions, and be amazing, awesome people. All right, take care and have a great day.